Welcome to session 2. I'm Kate Larkin. I'm with the Auburn Alumni Association, and I want to introduce our panelists for this session. And I'll get them just to wave. Amber Grant, Mary Shea Ray, Shelley Kavlik, and our moderator, Dr. Simona Black. And these women are going to talk about Auburn veterans igniting the spirit of empowerment. Just a reminder, you're automatically muted, but you can put your questions and comments in the group chat, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of this session. And I want to give them all the time that they have, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Simona Black. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much, Kate. I truly appreciate this. This is a wonderful platform, and thank you to the Auburn Alumni Association for the opportunity for a platform for women, and not only women, but veteran women. So thank you so much. Thank you, Erin, for the invitation, and all, again, the Auburn Alumni Association board members. So I'm so excited about this, and we have some wonderful women here. We have Mary Shea Ray and Kelly Kavlik, and also Amber Grant. And we have a variety of, come from a variety of different military backgrounds as far as which service we're in, Army, Air Force, and I think we have a Navy person. So, but this is wonderful. And this is an opportunity for us to really share our experiences. So again, sit back and just kind of ask questions and be curious. So we're looking forward to that dialogue. So for the panel members, we are looking for just really your candor, and just really for you to share with us. Too often that society feels that the word veteran doesn't apply to women. And I want you all to share your personal experiences with that. So I'll start with Shelley Kavlik.
Okay, well, good morning. I had some prepared remarks, but is like the saying goes, that I'm just going to speak from my heart and the cuff. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to thank Dr. Black. Thank you for your service, because you are a retired Colonel yourself. And I'd like to thank the Auburn Alumni Women's Association and the Veterans Resource Center. So a little bit about myself. I just retired from the Air Force Reserve in September. 25 years of service. I started Auburn to follow my second dream of finishing my flight ratings in January. So I went from an Air Force Eagle to a War Eagle. So I'm very pleased to be here today to share my perspective on the theme of today's panel. I'd like to just start with, I am a third generation airman. I'm very proud of that. My grandfather, my paternal grandfather, served in 3 wars of the 20th century. And he also, my father followed his footsteps as an Air Force aviator. And he retired as a colonel. So I wear his eagles on my service dress. So I'm very proud of that. And to tie this in, my mother, she served as an Air Force nurse. And but in her day, she did not have the opportunity to start a family and continue with her Air Force career. So she resigned her commission to have me. So when we think about the role of women as veterans and caregivers, I want to launch from there. In my experience, I feel that times have changed. I know we may talk on some of the current issues in the media right now about women in service and some of the administration changes. But I can say that my experience overall, when I think about my mother's service and opportunities afforded for female veterans, I was married to a active duty member. So I was a military spouse, and I've also been I have a son. So I also have started a family. So I took, I feel like a back seat after having my child. I became a reservist, and that afforded me the opportunity not only to be there for my son, but also care for a terminally ill sister. But what I can say in my experience, I have had a positive
Well, thank you, Shelley. You hit on a number of topics as far as just, you know, how you're perceived, maybe some of your challenges, really the support that you received and that you feel from that you received from the Air Force, even transitioning from active duty to reserve. And so I would like to hear from Amber, her experience as far as just really kind of balancing that. Shelley, you did talk about family and how you just kind of balance that, being dual military and things like that. And that, you know, from your perspective. So Amber, please share with us your experience as far as being a veteran and a woman veteran in the Army.
Funny, we just had a conversation the other day about being a veteran and having your veteran tags around town, and you kind of pull into a parking spot and everybody's like, oh, you kind of get the crazy look that when you get out the car and your husband's not with you or your significant other, and it's like hold on, no, those are mine, that's me, I'm the veteran. Or you kind of, or they're like, hey, where's your husband, thank him for his service, and you kind of say, no, that's me. And it's funny, now there's so many t-shirts and things around that say women are veterans or something to that effect. But for me, I was a dual military couple as well. Had both my kids while I was in the military. So being a female and in the military, it can be a bit challenging, but it's about balancing life and work together. And I still kind of am working that out in life now, with balancing the after, because when I did get out, my husband at the time had his medical issues. So we were I was trying to balance being family and taking care of him, which in turn caused me to get out of the military so that I could be there full time for my family. And which, you know, with the military, you're supposed to have a family care plan in place. And sometimes that doesn't always work for us because, you know, we're always miles away from our family. But as women, we still figure out how to make it work and still be there to soldier up. And then the funny thing is, being a woman and pregnant in the military, some people are trying to teach you with kid gloves on. Like, you know, I remember times when I would be at work and everybody's like, oh, no, don't do that. Don't pick that up. Don't do this. And I just looked at them like, I'm still a soldier. I mean, I'm pregnant. It's okay. You know, I can still do things. I've probably gotten in trouble a couple times because I was just a hard-headed one. Like I was like, I can do this. Don't treat me as different because I'm a female and I'm pregnant. So that's just my experience with it.
So what was your response? I'm just curious. When they asked you, they said, hey, thank you for your husband's service. You know, I get that a lot. Both my husband and I, we were active duty at the same time. And I never forget the postman. I didn't wear my uniform out in town. I would change when I got to work just because of where we were. And he says, hey, how's the colonel? And I would say, which one? And so he was shocked because he didn't know. And he just chuckled. He still teases me still teases me today about that. And I just thought that was hilarious. So what has been your response when people kind of, make that assumption?
I'll tell them, I'll let him know, but also I'm the veteran as well. It's like we're both veterans, and you kind of get that shock look like, oh, because I may get out of the car with my kids, right. And it's like, oh, you have two kids. Yeah, I'm the veteran as well. I think I went somewhere. I think I had to take my car in or something, and it was and I, because the price, I was like, hey, do you guys do military discount? He's like, yeah, and then he kind of I've been asked before, well, who's the veteran or who's the service member? Hey, me. They're like, oh, okay. So it's funny to look at some of the reactions you get when people find out you as a woman are the veteran.
Yes. So Mary Shea, I love your name. It rolls right off my tongue. So I'm gonna ask you the same question about your experience as far as balancing, life, even managing expectations or of others as far as you being a veteran in the military.
Right. Well, thank you. And thank you guys for having me. It's an honor and it's a privilege to be here. I think as women, we all wear a lot of hats. We're daughters, we're mothers, we're wives. Some of us are students, employees, trailblazers, so much more. And then some of us are also veterans, and that's okay. And each of those hats, in my opinion, they kind of carry their own weight and challenges, as well as rewards. In full transparency, I didn't go right after high school. I had a little girl, and then I had twins. And then it was just like, you know what? Not only do I want the privilege of serving my country, but I want to set that example for my daughter, that to show her that even in the face of extreme adversity, we can still overcome and we can still prevail. And I wanted to be that role model for her. But little did I know that my husband and I were going to flip that traditional script. And so he was the most amazing caretaker for our children. So my twin boys got to see, hey, you know what? It's okay to flip that script. It's okay to take care of the family while mom's out there doing her thing. And I really wanted to rid my children of that antiquated mentality that, women shouldn't be in the military or we didn't have a place in a man's world. Because personally, the word veteran carries no negative connotation for me. I'm very humbled to have served, and I've done everything from be a pastry chef in the Army to be an engineer. So I used to joke saying, yeah, it's cool. I have the greatest job ever. I get to bake beautiful cakes, win awards, and blow stuff up. Like, what woman doesn't want to do that, right?
That's a future show right there. Bake and blow things up.
Yeah. So naturally, a lot of the guys in my unit would tease, the females and say, you know what, you're going to stink today at the shooting range. And, it's because I'm a female. And so I would always tell my daughter, I'm like, it's eyeliner day. She's like, what does that mean? And I'm like, it's shooting range day. We're going to put on our eyeliner because we're going to outdo all these guys and look good doing it. So I would just tease her. And so when she's having a bad day, it's so funny because now she's grown, she's 18. And when she's having a bad day, I know it because she comes out wearing her eyeliner. She's like, I can do this. And so, or you can always tell when she's depending on how fierce she wants to be, how winged the eyeliner is. So, but no, I really feel like I came into the military at an amazing time because I've been able to see the change and the growth, and kind of to echo off of what Shelley said, there's still challenges and milestones to be made, but oh my stars, look at where we're at, look at where we were and how far women have come. And so it is just an amazing honor to be here today and to speak with all of you. And I really appreciate it. So thanks.
Well, again, I just think it's just an honor to serve our country, no matter whether we're a man or a woman. And thank you all for that. I know that there's been, and I'm gonna get to some of the questions that are in the chat, but I know that there's been some controversy recently about maybe women in the military, things like that. That's really kind of been highlighted with the news media. Can you all share, and each one of you touched on a little bit, some of your challenges and how you overcame that? Because you guys are not where you are by accident. So, you guys had to have some type of skills to be able to kind of overcome those challenges. And again, they're there. And we have challenges as women and as veterans, being in a majority male organization. So Shelley, I'm gonna let you start with that. Since you're the pilot, or you're definitely in a field that's probably predominantly male dominated, I would assume.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dr. Black. So the bottom line up front, I'd be happy in the Q&A to go into some of the change of policy that the Biden administration has instituted. Because I have female friends that are still serving, so I can look at it from the other side of the fence and
Yes.
their comments. So, but to answer your question about challenges I've overcome, I was in a male-dominated career, maintenance. So to be a female, and I like to wear my eyeliner, Mary Shay, on a regularly, but the fact that you can be the personality, you can be womanly, but you can do a man's job. That was something that I took pride in. We were talking before this session amongst the panelists about, another panelist made this comment, I was probably the son that my father never had. But I think what the military allowed me is to be who I was and accentuate that in a leadership role. But so being in maintenance, there were more men on the flight line, especially in the fighter community, than there were female. So generally speaking, I would say that I never encountered any problems with that. I think it's because I had great leadership. But what I can also say, I think one of the most defining times is when I was working in the Pentagon, as you know, the DC area very well.
Yes.
Dr. Black, I was interviewing for an executive officer position, and it was for a 3-star general. And I showed up for the interview and service dress, and there were 5 total that made the final cut, and 4 of them were male, and they all wore wings. And as a logistics officer, I'm not saying you're a second-class citizen in the community, but as you can probably, like an Army, there are career fields that are seen that have a golden halo effect. So I walked into that interview and I just put my best foot forward, and I felt quite intimidated, but I ended up being selected. So I will just say that I think because I expressed who I was, the general at the time, I was going through some personal challenges, and he asked me if there anything I need to know about your personal life. And he selected me based on, I think, my record and the ability to project myself and be a true agent. And so I will just say that was a really defining moment for me and made me believe in the ability that it's the best person for the job, not necessarily fitting a certain demographic. So.
Yes, that's a great story, really, to really highlight, hey, we're, if we have the credentials, if we have the record, we can succeed in whatever we look forward to do. So thank you for sharing that. Amber, I'm going to ask you the same question as far as challenges. I know you mentioned a few times, you deployed a couple of times, and I deployed as well. And it sounds like you deployed overseas, if I'm correct. And I'm not sure if you had children at the time, but tell me about, just in general, however you want to go, as far as your challenges and how you either overcame those challenges.
So my first deployment, I did not have kids, but the second deployment, my daughter was around, and actually both of us were deployed on that deployment. So both parents were gone at the time. So that is a huge challenge in itself when you have to leave your small children and explain to them why you're gone, and they kind of talk to you sporadically. As far as the deployment goes, no real issues. I had a great command. I worked for some great people. I think the issues that I saw more were when I was stateside. I had one unit I was in, there was when I was lower enlisted, and someone that was just a little bit above me. I had a challenge with him, and it was because he was a male, I was a female. And it was just like he felt he could just kind of push me around, boss me around. I was like, I got you, outrank me, but let's do this like we're humans though. And if you would like your respect, please provide the same. So him and I bumped heads a few times, even when we were deployed as well, on my first deployment. Another issue I probably had was when I was an NCO, I had someone that I was new to the office and he had been there for a while. I had to take him to WLC at the time. I think that's what it was still called, the Warrior Leaders course. And he felt some type of way about that because I came in, outranked him, and he felt like he should be doing things more because he was a guy. So he had an issue working for a female. And unfortunately, it came down to actually everybody above him was a female. So that actually worked out kind of interesting. And again, some guys have this thing about working for females. He's probably not, and I encountered one more who outranked me again, and he came from an infantry unit. So of course, male dominated. Another one that had an issue with working with females, and it just was funny because for me, it's like, okay, you may have an issue working with females and all that, but we're going to get through this. We're going to get done what needs to be done, and we're going to put our big girl and big boy pants on and soldier up and let's go. I'm like, we just have to get along at work. Outside of work, we don't have to talk. You can see me in the store and we can pass each other and I'll politely acknowledge you because you outrank me. But beyond that, I mean, I was like, I'm not going to go back and forth with you over something that the military's evolved by years. So there are going to be women around you in everything we do, especially even now with women being able to be rangers and in combat MOSs such as infantry and field artillery and all of that. Men have to understand that we are not those fragile creatures that they think we are, and we're able to do things just as they can. And it's something I kind of teach my daughter, like Mary Shay said, just because you're a woman, don't think that you can't do anything. And my daughter tells me all the time, Mom, I want to do this. Okay, let's go. What do you want to do? I encourage her to do everything that she wants to do. I think she told me one day, Mom, I want to play flag football. Okay, let's go. Because I coached some girls over in Columbus, Georgia, who play flag football over at Shaw High School. And I allow her to come out and practice with them all the time. I myself play. So I'm like, I will never tell my daughter that she cannot do anything, or I will never allow anyone to show her that just because she's a girl, she can't do it. And I kind of had to tell my mom the same thing. Like, my mom didn't want me to do certain things. Like, Mom, it's okay. I'm a girl. That's fine. But I'm still going to do it. Like the military was something she did not want me to do. And she said, I don't want my baby to go. I said, but Mom, I'm going. So I just think the challenges that are there, I think for me, I was always one of those, I'm going to face it head on, and I'm going to find a respectful way to handle those people that may feel like working with a woman or for a woman is an issue.
Well, thank you for that. I too, my husband and I, we were both deployed, and we left our 2 young children behind. So I definitely understand that. And those are decisions that, as women and as parents, I'm not saying that he felt any less than me as far as leaving our children, but as parents, we make those decisions when we are in the military and we have to go to war. And I knew that joining, but it becomes surreal when it happens, right? And lots of people made decisions during that time to either get out or stay. And I said, this is what I came in for. And those are decisions that you make. So, Mary Shay, I'm going to ask you the same thing. as far as, challenges and how you overcame, what I hear from Shelley and what I hear from Amber is just really, they had great supportive leadership. There's people that really saw their talent for who they were, really work with them. And they were very, it's as far as any challenges that they had, how they responded to those individuals, and saying, hey, it's my character and my worth and who I am versus, just me being a female. So hand it over to you, Mary Shay. So share with us, please.
Well, thank you. I come from a small town, and with the exception of my husband, it was very taboo for me to already be a mother and go into the military. I was berated for leaving my children, abandoning my motherly roles. How could you? And, I did. I had a lot of self-doubt going in, but I just felt like it was this pull. And since then, I feel like I look back and reflect, and I'm thinking, that was just character development. I had a brother-in-law that told me, he said, you know what? I couldn't make it through basic. There's no way you're going to. And I heard his voice in my head through every challenge. And I was like, you know what? Sit back and watch. And that was my drive. And I think that's what still drives me today and gives me that initiative to go forward. Is not only, it's not to prove someone else wrong, it's to prove myself wrong. I would say part of my biggest weakness is like self-doubt, but I love proving myself wrong when I can look back and say, oh, wow, that just happened. Like I just rappelled out of that helicopter. I just, rucked 15 miles, or, even Amber, even with the iron ruck, 151 miles. So, and I definitely wouldn't be the woman I am today without everything that I've been through in the military, definitely. And I would not be right here in this office. I would not be an Auburn alum. I would not be pursuing my master's. So I'm very grateful for what my brother-in-law said all those years ago. That kind of just drove me and, sent me into that mentality. I can do this and I will do this. So even though I've experienced a lot of those same experiences as Shelley and Amber, they can probably agree. It's just like, you got to prove it, not only to that man's world, but to yourself. You want to know that you can do this and it can be done. So.
And that's great. And I love, you said, I'm putting my eyeliner on today. I love that because I don't go anywhere without, having my hair done and my makeup on. And a lot of people were like, you're in the military? And I'm like, because you're a military woman, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are not feminine. And so that's a different kind of mindset too, that I find people are surprised because they have a certain idea of what women in the military and veterans look like. And I think that's very interesting that you said, hey, I didn't, he said, I didn't make it, and what things we can and can't do, and limiting us and putting us in the box, definitely. So I'm going to ask a few questions that are here. Shelley, I know you were in the Air Force. And so Auburn has a ROTC program. And I know some of my nursing classmates were in the Air Force, Air Force ROTC. And if any of you all know, please chime in. What can we do as veterans to help our ROTC programs that are at Auburn?
Okay, I've just unmuted. Thanks, Dr. Black. It's ironic that question came up. When I retired out of the Air War College, one of my students is, he's the current Air Force ROTC det commander. So so when I came over and started spring term, I walked up to the det and I offered any mentoring that I can provide for these cadets that are here, because I think part of our role as veterans is mentoring others, whether they are rising officers, rising enlisted. We shouldn't just share within our community of veterans. We tend to be kind of a similar type personality, and it's very comfortable to find a veteran and be able to pick up a conversation. But I think we also be inspiring the next generation. So, because it's so easy in some of my classes in pro flight, I have ROTC cadets, or I have people that ask, what is military service all about? And I love doing that. I love telling the story and giving them resources. So I think that is our job as veterans, is to be able to mentor. And I think the other panelists, I see some nods to be able to share.
All right. I'm gonna ask Amber if she could share, her experience as far as mentoring. Also, please share with the attendees, what can we do as veterans to really kind of help the younger generation coming up, whether it be Auburn or ROTC, or whether or not it will, just mentoring other veterans that, may not be in ROTC or other military women.
Piggybacking on Shelley, I think mentoring is a big thing. Being that, especially with ROTC, you have a good bit of them that don't have that military experience at all. So they're just coming in as, hey, I'm doing ROTC and then I'm going into the military. So they kind of don't know what to expect when going into the military. There are some who may be in reserve and National Guard, so they have a little bit of insight on it. And you have some that may be coming from, green and gold programs and things like that. So they have a little bit. But for those that don't, being able to guide them and give them insight from our perspective and our time in the military, and kind of, the things that we may have seen or experienced, to help them, know that, hey, going in here, this is what I'm getting into. These are some of the challenges I may face. Here's some ways of overcoming them, just kind of giving them a little tool bag to take with them as they start their military journey.
Right, perfect. Mary Shay, I'm gonna ask you the same question, because I know it sounds like that you've already mentored your next generation of women coming up in the military, your daughters, and really been an example to them. Please share with the attendees, really, what can we do as veterans, to help, the future women coming up.
Right. I will not only just say veterans, but I want to encompass all women in that. Because we are here to help each other. We're here to inspire. We're here to uplift one another. We're here to adjust each other's crown when necessary. And, for veterans or someone, who's inspired to go in the military, for anybody out there, if you have any questions, feel free to call me or email me. I can put my email in the chat. But I would be more than happy to help anyone. But it's all about that knowledge and taking those experiences and learning from those experiences and then growing from those experiences. And personally, it's kind of a heartbreaking story, but my daughter, I did this so she could see that, women, we can do anything, right? When she was 15 years old, I found her in a coma on my bathroom floor. And I rushed her to the ER. I don't even remember the trip there. Long story short, she has a terminal autoimmune disease called T1D. Her pancreas does not work. And when she woke up from, she was captain of her ROTC at school. She was, mountain biker. I mean, she was ready to sign papers. I was going to sign with her when she was 17. And she wakes up from her coma. And the first thing she says is, she's like, my career is over before it ever started. She knew it was T1D. She's like, it's type 1 diabetes, isn't it? I said, yeah, babe, it is. And she's like, my career is over before it ever started. But you know what? She's an amazing individual. And now she's a welder. And she welds, again, and something that's been traditionally male dominated area. And I want to say to anyone out there, I inspire everyone. And if, sometimes we can't join the military because we have something going on, right? There's like extenuating circumstances. And even though we want to serve with all of our heart, it may not be possible, but you know what? That's okay. Because if you want to serve your country, there are several ways to do that and be a civilian, because we would not be where, none of us right here would not be where we are today without our civilian counterparts. And their role in our service is so amazing. So that's all I have to say about that, really. But it's not just veterans, it's just females in general, and us fixing our crowns when it needs to be fixed and picking each other up. And yeah, so that's my take on that.
Thank you, Mary Shea, for that. I love that you said it's not just veterans, but for all women, and that's what this summit is about, right? So thank you for that. So we have a couple more questions. I don't know if anyone has daughters that are old enough who serve. So my daughter is old enough, but she's a senior at Spelman College. I don't think that she's going into the military. She said, "Mom, I've seen what you do, and it's good that two people wear boots in our house, and it's okay." But some of the things that she's doing, she says, is because of you, Mom, and I've seen that you overcome adversity. So share with me, and I'm not sure if any of you are older than me, but or have daughters that are able to serve, or maybe even some mentors that you know that are serving. Who? No? Am I the only one?
I'll start. I don't have, I have a son, and he's 15, and his father is a retired colonel as well. So you'd almost think there'd be pressure to go in, but in his case, he's highly performing, but I think because of the virtues, I will have to say our military children are my heroes, because we move them around. He has lived between two households. And at the end of the day, I think it makes them more resilient in life. So I have to say a special thank you to our military children, whether they go on and serve. He's my hero. He never complained. He'd always go along with the flow, and he was born into the military. And I made a choice to retire so that he could finish high school here. And so I will just say that in that aspect, I don't think he's going to choose service, but then again, his mind can change. But I always loved, it goes back to the mentoring. If I have friends who are, their daughters are interested in military service, or I am an alumni of a sorority, and I have been to career days at Troy University when I was serving, and talked to other younger sorority sisters about a military service, because I think that is our role. And that kind of goes into the mentoring, whether it's internal to your family or external. I have a lot of friends that reach out to me that have daughters that want a female perspective about the military.
That's so great. Because they see you as a resource, and they see you not as a mentor, a resource, and an advocate. So that's important. So we have a couple more questions, and I think to Mary Shea's point, and I like what she said. Without the civilians, we could not do what we do. Really, our organization is headed in the higher leadership by civilians, and that's intentional. So Melissa wants to know: are there things that civilian employers can do to help with the transitioning from military service to civilian employment?
Oh, my stars. I'm sorry. I think about my personal transition, and the transition is smooth, and that's amazing when it can be smooth. And then sometimes you have people like me, you come out of the military and you feel like, I don't know where I'm at. I don't have a rank on my chest. I got to be where at what time? No, nowhere. Okay. I'm not sure. So yeah, with civilians, there's always a sector, I think, out there, if that's where your passion is, to reach out and help these veterans that are coming out, help them transition. Like right now here at Auburn University, we have ASVA, that's our Student Veterans Association. We have, a lot of civilians work here. And so that is amazing. If you see someone struggling, and my major is in psychology, I'm pursuing my master's. So mental health and the stigma of mental health. Sometimes you see a really big change in mental health when you see that transition. And I just want to say to any civilian, to any veteran, to anyone, if you see anyone, male or female, if you see them struggling, don't be scared to get that person help. You can always help. You can always reach out. You can always make a connection. And you don't know, you just might be that person that they needed. And so, yeah, I would love to see the mental health stigma, especially around military and veterans, be broken down so they can get the help that they need without feeling like they're going to receive any kind of backlash for it, or, you know, be ashamed. So that's my big thing is mental health. So if anybody can help us on that front, that's a war zone all in of itself.
Mary Shay, you're speaking my language when it comes to behavioral health and really taking care of yourself, healthcare. You know, and I think Shelley mentioned, you know, there's levels of, I shouldn't say importance, but, you know, you have the fighters, which are the guys on the line and things like that. And logistics, they're supportive, right? Healthcare, we're supportive. But I think all of us have a role in what we do and contribute, whether it's man, woman, logistics, nurse, whatever, to the military. So I say that because right now during this pandemic, healthcare was seen kind of, ancillary until it's on the forefront. And that's kind of the war, if you will, that we're fighting. So thank you for that. There's been there's a lot of resources out there for people to plug in to help veterans, a lot of organizations that are out there to really plug in and help veterans. So just being there and being supportive, and thank you, Mary Shay, for that, and especially when people are struggling for mental health, that is huge. Shelley, any words as far as, and I'm gonna ask you a different question. So, because I know we're getting short on time, but sometimes you hear women are a part of an invisible population, and the transition for them is really perceived to be easier to get assimilated back into the civilian population. What challenge is, if any, did you all, Shelley, go through when transitioning out of the military service? And I'm gonna ask you and Amber that, and I'll start with you, Shelley.
Well, first of all, Dr. Black, who was also a colonel, so I'll brag about her a bit. She's more recently retired. I think you had mentioned in our pre-session, you just retired in January.
I did.
More fresh on the mind, and mine was September. And two of my best Air Force friends are Kellys, so it's all good. So to answer your question, I have to think, that's a good one, because we talked about this identity as a woman in the military. And I think Mary Shay and Amber can say it is a slippery slope, because we touched on the ability, there's something in us that feels that calling, and we feel like we have the ability to serve our country and do a job for our national defense. But then there's also the female side and the allowance to be that female. And so we work through that when we're, as we are going through our time of service. But in this transition, whether you separate or retire, you had an identity, and then you're trying to find that identity again. And as a female veteran, you kind of like, well, I have a lot of guy friends because of my predominantly male service. And so you transition to the civilian corps, and I can assimilate with men and women, I think, equally, but you're kind of seen different when in the civilian world, maybe more, you have more guy friends because that's what you knew, for an example. So I wouldn't say I've had to struggle. COVID has kind of been a veil because of our we've been more homebound, but I would say I am still kind of trying to find that identity. But I think what is useful is that because I'm a change agent, and because I've been moved PCS, I've been deployed, and you change jobs frequently, and you learn a new skill set. I think in that way, it has helped me to be able to reinvent myself as a citizen, or a civilian, I should say now. So that's just my perspective. So.
And Amber, I'm gonna have you answer the same question, but I also have a different question for you too as we're wrapping this up. Really those challenges that you might have had, transitioning out of the military, but also we would love to hear actually from any of you, but I'm asking you first, Amber, what was your favorite military memory?
Okay. The challenges, like Shelly said, it's like you have an identity in the military. So when I got out, it was one of those, okay, I don't have to get up at this time and do this and do this. I didn't have that set schedule anymore. So it was one of those, I had to figure out what to do with myself now. I was like, I was still mom. I was still being a caregiver to my husband at the time, but it was like, I felt like I was missing a piece of something. So I went back to school, started off in pastry school, then culinary school, and then I ended up here in Auburn. So over time, it took me some time to find out where I wanted to be. And then I finally did it and figured out which way to take my life now. That makes it to where, hey, I feel like I found my sense of purpose again. So those were my challenges, just finding that sense of identity again. And then let's see, favorite military moment. Amazingly, it would probably be my last deployment to Afghanistan. Just because I got to work with a lot of different countries and do a lot of different events because I worked in we call it JVB over there, which is the Joint Visitors Bureau. So we dealt with a lot of important people that came into our area of operation. So I got to meet a lot of people, see a lot of things, especially when we handled the USO tour. So I think that's probably about my most favorite military moment there for me.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I wouldn't think that your deployment will be your first military moment, but I think we share the same sentiment. I'm gonna ask you the same thing, Mary Shay. Mary Shay, you had some great things. I still love the eyeliner thing. So please share with us your favorite memory and military moment.
As you were asking that question earlier, I was like, oh gosh, just trying to run through my head. Shelly, are you doing the same thing? Like, so I'm just running through my head like, oh my stars, there's so many. I think for me, honestly, it was my experience in Europe. I served for quite some time in Germany, and I got to see not only a new part of the world, but I got to see it through my children's eyes. And to me, that was amazing. And so when they they essentially grew up in Germany. So when they brought that culture that they adapted to back home, I just think it's a beautiful experience, really. And to be able to see them live in a small town that may not be so accepting of certain things that we should be more accepting of, but then to see my children be like, hey, you know what, that's okay. We love people anyway. We love all cultures. We love diversity and inclusion. And so I think it was just that entire experience that, I don't know, it makes me smile when I think about it. And other than that, a personal experience was me and my husband dancing in a cathedral courtyard in the rain one day after a date. Like, to me, I was just like, is this a movie? It was so cheesy. It was so cheesy. It was really cute.
Keep love alive. However, all right, Shelly, please share with us your favorite military moment.
Okay, so Amber had to go first. So of course, now she's probably like, dang, I probably have like 10 more to share. Oh my gosh, just like Mary Shay, my life has been enriched through service. I could even say through my father's time. But I will say two key points. I have so many, it's just, this Zoom session's not enough. Watching my father was an F4 pilot. So I think as a child, it was seeing Santa taxied in an F4, the back seat, the 2-seater aircraft of his generation, in from the flight line to deliver presents to the kids. So that was my favorite military child memory. And I think since I love aviation and obviously maintenance, I'm going to go to when I was assigned in Aviano Air Base, Italy. So I had the joy of being overseas as well in my career. the U-2, it's a classified surveillance aircraft. So it was deployed there in the late 90s. So I'm dating myself. So my senior NCO, who is still this day a mentor, a wonderful woman. And I wish she could be part of this panel, but the long story short, she got us an incentive ride in the U-2, and it's a single seat. So there's no second seat. I was very confused, but when we showed up and met the pilot, he took us in a Camaro, and in order to land the U-2, it requires a guided assistance because the wings tips the way they sag when landing, and they can't flare properly like a normal aircraft. So we took off behind a U-2 coming in for an approach to landing, and the driver was talking on a CB radio. I am sitting in the front, clutching the dashboard because we were right underneath the aircraft, and it landed, and the pilot driving knew what to do. And I think my heart left my chest for a moment, but it just reinvigorated the excitement, but also remind me of the important professionalism that our service members exhibit and how highly trained they are to do their jobs. So I'm a thrill seeker. I'll just say it. So I'll leave it at that. But thank you.
Thank you all for your answers.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I just was thanking myself.
Yes. So I'm gonna leave you all with one question. And I think this is a great question. So how has the military shaped or helped you set up for your career afterwards? And I think Shelley and Mary Shay, you guys talked about that. Amber, I know you're working on your next chapter of your life. So please share with the participants, really, how has your military career kind of set you up for the next step?
I guess I'll take that one first. My mom definitely told me after joining the military, she definitely saw a change in me as who I was. She said I was an independent person growing up. She's like, but the military added on to that. And she said definitely made me a stronger person. I feel like the military definitely helped me grow as a person. It helped to structure me probably more than I was before. And it made me really resilient. So, as they say, gave me a little bit of tough skin. And so, disappointments don't, affect me as, they may some people, and they affect me, but I learned that, hey, okay, that's okay, that I got to know, or I didn't get this, or I didn't get that. We're going to find another way and find something else to do, and just keep pushing on, and just take every obstacle as it comes and find a way to overcome it. And that's just how I kind of go in my day-to-day, that, hey, if something's put in front of me, figure out the best way to attack it and overcome it and keep on moving. Like Mary Shay says, you're working on her master's. I'm working on mine too. And the crazy part is I'm going to work on another one. I think I'm a glutton for punishment when it comes to school. But when I do those things, I also take into the consideration that I have kids, and I try to build everything around them and make sure that, hey, even though mom's doing this, I still cut that time out of my day and my schedule to ensure that they have their mommy time and their, our movie nights and things like that. So military definitely helped with time management as well.
All right, either Mary Shay or Shelley. So how has the military set you up for your next chapter in your life?
I would say the military has everything to do with the next chapter in my life. As I touched on mental health earlier, because that was something I went through on a personal level. And I realized that, sometimes there are times that we don't always, as veterans, we have a hard time connecting with maybe a civilian therapist or a civilian counselor. And sometimes it takes for some of us to talk to someone who's been in those same metaphorical trenches that we're in that moment. And I train service dogs for veterans with PTSD. And so that was my way of giving back. And then I was like, you know what? I'm still missing something. This isn't enough. And then I realized without furthering my education, I couldn't go forward in helping the veterans as much as I wanted to, and not just veterans, but also their dependents. And so, yeah, so here I am at Auburn right now, like living my dream. But yeah, we're not done yet. So we're going to take that a step further. And so my end goal is to pair therapy with, you know, training my service dogs for my brothers and sisters in arms, you know, that really need it. There's a need for it out there. And yeah, I feel like that's my calling without a shadow of a doubt.
Right. And Shelley, I'm gonna let you close.
Thank you, Dr. Black. I can say I'd echo a lot of what the ladies have said already, and I'll be very short. That I think the military has taught me to be a better person, a better version of myself. And going into the civilian world, I feel like I will continue to carry that on. And I tell you, it built the confidence that I did not have coming through ROTC and going into the service as a second lieutenant, that I think it has just made me the better version of myself. And I think that that it is our role, again, to the military, again, taught us to mentor, it taught us to be to highly performing. We're not perfect, but I think we also learned that no matter what, to dust ourselves off and then continue to rise. And I think that that's what the biggest takeaway I have as we go into the next chapter of our lives. So.
All right, Shelley, that was a wonderful close. And so I appreciate all the panelists that have participated. Again, I appreciate the Auburn Alumni Association for providing this forum and this platform for you to hear about our experiences as women veterans. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. And I want to thank these amazing heroes for your great perspective on our military women. And I want to thank them and all of our participants who have served or are serving in our country. You are truly heroes, and we're so proud to have you as Auburn women. I hope that all of you will access the bios of these wonderful women on our website and read all about their amazing accomplishments. And also, if you are a member of the military, active or veteran, please let us know your branch and your rank so that we can include you in future events and activities that we have. You can update anytime at aurecords@auburn.edu or on our website, or you can email me directly at kateasburylarkin@auburn.edu. And one last thing, you'll receive a survey at the end of the summit, and I encourage you to complete it and share your ideas and give us feedback to help us as we prepare for future events. Thank you all for attending this session. And during our lunch hour, 4 students leaders will share their experiences as women leading students at Auburn. So grab something to eat and join us back again at 11:45. Thank you all so very much. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.